Hello, my friends. This is Expensive Coins History Channel. Millions of people have seen these coins, but only a few realize they were holding a fortune in their hands. Before we go any further, take a second right now, look around you. Maybe there's a small jar of coins sitting somewhere in your home. Maybe there's a forgotten wallet, an old drawer, or even loose change in your pocket that you haven't checked in years. Because what if, hidden among those ordinary coins, there's something extraordinary waiting to be discovered? If you're someone who believes that small things can carry big value, then you're in the right place. Make sure you subscribe right now, because what you're about to learn could completely change the way you look at every single coin you touch from today onward. Now let's begin something truly fascinating. Imagine the United States in the early 1970s, a time before smartphones, before the internet, before digital banking. Coins weren't just currency, they were part of daily life. People counted them, saved them, exchanged them constantly. And among billions of pennies produced during that era, there were a few that carried secrets so rare, so subtle, that most people never noticed. One of those coins is the 1974 D. Abraham Lincoln 1-cent penny. At first glance, there is absolutely nothing special about it. It looks like every other penny from that era. The familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln facing right, the words "In God We Trust" above, liberty to the side, and the year 1974 stamped clearly. Beneath the date, a small letter D marks its origin, the Denver Mint. To most people, this coin is worth exactly 1 cent, something to ignore, something to spend without a second thought. But that's where the story takes a dramatic turn. Because hidden within a tiny fraction of these coins are rare variations and conditions that transform them from everyday currency into objects of intense desire among collectors. And here's the truth that very few people realize. Rarity is not always about age. It's about detail. The 1974 D penny was produced in massive quantities. Millions upon millions were released into circulation. That's exactly why people overlooked it. When something is common, nobody questions it. Nobody examines it closely. Nobody expects it to be valuable. And that's exactly how treasures hide in plain sight. Now picture this. A coin is struck at the Denver Mint. Everything seems normal. But during the minting process, something slightly unusual happens. Maybe the die used to stamp the coin has a minor imperfection. Maybe the alignment is just slightly off. Maybe the pressure applied is not perfectly consistent. These small differences, invisible to the untrained eye, are what create rarity. Collectors spend years studying these details. They look for sharpness in the lettering. They examine the spacing. They analyze the texture. They search for errors, misprints, and unusual characteristics that separate an ordinary coin from an extraordinary one. And in the case of the 1974 D penny, there are examples that stand far above the rest. Coins that were preserved in near-perfect condition. Coins that were never heavily circulated. Coins that still carry their original shine, their crisp edges, their flawless surfaces. Condition is a coin that has been scratched, worn down, or damaged over time loses much of its appeal. But a coin that remains almost untouched becomes something else entirely. It becomes rare. Now think about how many hands a coin passes through in its lifetime. How many transactions? How many pockets? How many years of wear and tear? For a coin from 1974 to survive in exceptional condition is already something remarkable. But when you combine that condition with subtle variations, minting quirks, or rare characteristics, the value can rise to levels that seem almost unbelievable. And this is where the story becomes even more intense. Because most people never check. They never take the time to look closely at their coins. They assume that a penny is just a penny. They overlook the possibility that something valuable could be right in front of them. But a few people, the ones who are curious, the ones who pay attention, they see things differently. They notice the details. They understand that value is not always obvious. And sometimes, that curiosity leads to life-changing discoveries. There have been collectors who found rare pennies in ordinary places, in old jars, in inherited collections, even in everyday change. Moments where something insignificant suddenly becomes significant. Moments where a simple coin turns into a story. Now imagine holding a 1974 D penny in your hand. You tilt it under the light. You examine the surface. You look closely at the date, the mint mark, the condition. At first, it might seem like nothing. But what if it isn't? What if that coin carries one of those rare characteristics? What if it has been preserved in a way that makes it incredibly desirable? What if it's worth far more than you ever imagined? This is the moment where everything changes. Because every penny becomes a possibility. Every detail becomes important. Every small variation becomes something worth investigating. And this is exactly why coins like the 1974 D Lincoln penny continue to capture attention generation after generation. They remind us that value is not always visible at first glance. They remind us that history lives in the smallest objects. They remind us that sometimes the most ordinary things carry the most extraordinary potential. Now let's go deeper. Think about the journey of a single coin. From the moment it is created at the mint, to the moment it enters circulation, to the years it spends moving from one person to another. Each coin has a story. Some are used heavily, worn down over time, eventually disappearing from circulation. Others are saved, protected, preserved, and a very small number remain almost untouched. These are the coins that collectors search for. These are the coins that stand out. These are the coins that can reach incredible levels of value. But here's the challenge: recognizing them. Because the difference between a common coin and a rare one is not always obvious. It requires attention. It requires patience. It requires a willingness to look closer than most people ever do. And that's exactly what separates those who find valuable coins from those who unknowingly spend them. Now imagine the possibilities. How many 1974 D pennies are still out there? How many are sitting in collections unnoticed? How many are hidden in places where nobody has thought to look? And how many have already passed through people's hands without them ever realizing what they had? This is what makes coin collecting so fascinating. It's not just about money. It's about discovery. It's about the thrill of finding something rare in a place where nobody expected it. It's about understanding that even the smallest object can carry incredible significance. And it's about knowing that sometimes the difference between ordinary and extraordinary comes down to a single detail. Now take a moment and think about your own coins. When was the last time you really looked at them? Not just glanced at them, but truly examined them? Because after this, you might want to start. And that's where this journey becomes personal. Because this is no longer just a story about coins. It's a story about awareness. It's a story about paying attention to the things that others ignore. It's a story about realizing that value can exist in places you never expected. And most importantly, it's a story about possibility. Because right now, somewhere, there is a 1974 D Lincoln penny waiting to be discovered. The question is, will it be found by someone who recognizes its worth? Or will it continue to pass unnoticed, just like it has for decades? And that brings us to a powerful realization. The world is full of overlooked value, not just in coins, but in many things. But only those who take the time to look deeper ever find it. So as this chapter comes to a close, keep this in mind. Every coin has a story. Every detail matters. And sometimes, the smallest discovery can lead to the biggest surprise. And now, we step into the second chapter of this journey, a chapter that feels even more intense, more mysterious, and far more unpredictable. Because if the first coin taught you how to see, this one will test how far you're willing to look. Picture the year 1970. The world was changing. Economies were shifting. Technology was slowly evolving. But coins were still something people touched every single day. They passed from hand to hand, from pocket to pocket, from one story to another without anyone ever stopping to think twice. And right there, in the middle of that ordinary flow of life, the 1970 D Abraham Lincoln 1-cent penny was born. Just like the previous coin, it looks completely normal at first glance. Same familiar portrait, same inscriptions, same simple design that millions of people had already seen countless times before. Nothing about it screams rarity. Nothing about it suggests value. Nothing about it tells you, this could be worth a fortune. And that's exactly why it became one of the most overlooked coins of its time. Because when something looks ordinary, people stop questioning it. They stop paying attention. They stop looking closer. But here's where everything changes. The 1970 D penny carries a reputation, one that has quietly built over decades among collectors, experts, and those who truly understand the hidden language of coins. A reputation built on subtle differences, tiny variations, Details so small that most people would never notice them even if they were staring directly at the coin. Now imagine this. Two coins, both from 1970, both minted in Denver, both appearing almost identical. But one of them carries a feature that sets it apart completely, a detail that transforms it from common to incredibly rare. This is where the concept of small date and large date varieties enters the story. To an untrained eye, these differences are nearly invisible. But to someone who knows what to look for, they are everything. The shape of the numbers, the spacing between the digits, the way the 7 appears, the alignment of the date. These are not random details. They are clues. And those clues can lead to something extraordinary. Because among the 1970 pennies, there exists a variation that has captured the attention of collectors for years. A version that is far less common, far more difficult to find, and far more valuable. But here's the problem. Most people never learn how to recognize it. They never take the time to compare. They never question the differences. And because of that, these rare coins continue to move quietly through the world unnoticed. Now stop for a moment and imagine this scenario. You're holding a handful of old pennies. You decide to look through them, not expecting anything. Just curiosity. Just a simple moment of attention. And then you notice something slightly different. The date looks unusual. The numbers don't quite match what you've seen before. It's subtle, very subtle, but it catches your eye. This is the exact moment where discovery begins. Because that small difference could be everything. This is how rare coins are found. Not through luck alone, but through awareness, through patience, through the willingness to look closer than anyone else. And the 1970 penny is one of those coins that rewards that kind of attention. Now let's go deeper into what makes this coin so fascinating. It's not just about the date variation. It's also about condition, once again. Because even a rare variety, if heavily worn, loses much of its potential value. But when you combine rarity with exceptional preservation, that's when things reach another level entirely. Coins that have sharp details, clear lettering, minimal wear, a surface that still reflects light in a certain way. These are the coins that stand out. These are the coins that collectors compete for. These are the coins that can reach astonishing values. And now, here's where the story becomes truly powerful. Because somewhere out there, right now, there are still 1970 pennies waiting to be discovered. Not in museums, not locked away in vaults, but in ordinary places. Old collections, forgotten jars, family inheritances, loose change that nobody has taken the time to examine. Think about that. Something so valuable, hiding in something so ordinary. And the only thing separating it from being discovered is attention. Now imagine the emotional moment when someone finally realizes what they have. The disbelief, the excitement, the sudden shift in perspective. A coin that was once ignored suddenly becomes the center of attention. A simple piece of copper becomes a story worth telling. This is why coin collecting is not just a hobby. It's an experience. It's a journey of discovery. It's a reminder that the world still holds hidden treasures, even in the most unexpected places. And the 1970 Lincoln penny represents that idea perfectly, because it challenges you to look closer, to question what you see, to understand that not everything is as simple as it appears. Now take a step back and think about both coins together. The 1974D, a coin that hides its value in condition and subtle minting characteristics. The 1970D, a coin that hides its value in variation and detail. Two different stories, two different paths, but both leading to the same powerful conclusion. That value is often hidden. That rarity is often overlooked. And that opportunity exists where most people never think to look. Now here comes the moment that brings everything together. Because by now, you've seen how these coins operate. You've understood the importance of detail. You felt the shift in perspective. And now, it's time to reveal what makes these coins truly unforgettable. The value. Because at the highest levels, under the right conditions, with the right characteristics, these coins have reached numbers that most people would never expect from a single penny. The 1974D Lincoln penny has been known to reach a value of $121,000. And the 1970D Lincoln penny has reached an astonishing $155,000. Take a second to process that. Two coins, both originally worth just 1 cent. now potentially worth more than what many people earn in years. And yet, they look almost identical to the coins people ignore every single day. This is the reality that changes everything, because it proves one simple idea. You don't always need something big to find something valuable. Sometimes, all it takes is paying attention to something small. So now, the question becomes personal. What coins do you have? What have you overlooked? What might be sitting quietly, waiting for you to notice it? Because after this moment, you can't say you didn't know. Now you understand. Now you see differently. Now every coin you touch carries a new possibility. And that's where your journey begins. So before you leave, make sure you subscribe, because this is just the beginning. There are more coins, more stories, more hidden values waiting to be uncovered. And the next discovery could be yours.